It's time to say farewell to Armored Core on Year of the Mecha, with one of the best goddamn games this series ever saw, despite not playing at all like what the fucking, like, PS2, PS1 games, like the classic series of Armored Core had in terms of mechanics. This proved it was able to still deliver on something just as good as that, while playing completely different. Millennium Cyborg's here to see off this game.
Yeah, with high praise indeed. So I'm very curious to see
Yeah,
what we have in store.
yeah. And obviously the first thing to start in this case is a little cinematic explaining the setup.
Skirmishes broke out across the globe as the three forces struggled for world domination. Army numbers swelled, and the once proud mercenaries found themselves ostracized for refusing to take sides.
Hello, Vortex.
The world had come back from the brink of destruction. But the fighting only grew fiercer. It was the eve of what would come to be known as the Verdict War. This is the forgotten tale of a lone mercenary.
So there we go. We are 100 years after the events of Armored Core 5. The city and father have fallen. People scattered to the wasteland. Enough time has passed that we are now in a world where there are 3 military superpowers all vying for control of resources left behind from ages past across the globe. War never changes.
We've moved past the worst part of the PS3 sort of era, heavy bloom and blur.
Yeah, but it's but obviously they like with by the time this game rolls around, like even you saw when we played AC5, like there was definitely a lot of like usual like kind of frame rate problems that like was very indicative of just FromSoft's games on this generation. Like they were just really like pushing really good art design, even if it was kind of lacking on a lot of the technical polish. But anyway, we're stopping by the workshop again just to show off, you know, what sort of things are different this time. Because, you know, this came out like a full year and a half after Armored Core 5. It's in the same vein as all the standalone expansions that have been a defining part of the series up to this point. You know, you have your core number title, and then you have, like, your immediate follow-up that is built on the same engine, allows you to transfer your save if you have it, and just gives you more of what that generation's mechanics and systems have to offer.
And the knee shield is back.
Yep. Good old battering ram knee shield is still there, in effect. As well as, like, our weapon setup with, you know, arm and bay units, shoulder weapons, ultimate weapons. However, oh, and also, of course, we can't forget the 3 defense types. Kinetic, chemical, and thermal are all still in place. But in the arms section, you may be noticing, like, with this rather funky looking shape of an arm, we have a 4th category. Weapon arms are back. They were gone. They were gone from AC5 mainly because of how the system was built around the idea of, like, every weapon was a handheld one. You had to manually switch them out. But in the classic AC games, you could have the option to attach arms that were literally just weapons, you know? They were very powerful, but usually came at the cost of, you know, armor points and defense. But if you remember, obviously, the, how, like, the weapon switching in AC5 worked, with, like, the whole bay unit conveyor switching system, you might be wondering, well, how do they make a weapon arm work? Because clearly I still have handheld weapons in my left and right arms. So, so what's the deal with that?
Oh yeah.
Yep. Like that. Like this was just the extra thing that really hammers home that the people that thought up the both like the gameplay systems and like the real world internal mechanisms for how these ACs would work in universe were just totally in sync the whole way. So now we got like, so we can just switch to arm blades that fold out in a really cool way, all while our handheld weapons are stored neatly on the back.
And so
It's
are the
really cool.
are the mechanisms specific to the arm blade? Do different weapon arms have different mechanisms?
Yes, there are different types of arm weapon, like weapon arms that have like they do follow that same sort of rotating mechanism, but obviously they are more than just like the physical blades. Like you see here, we got a sniper cannon. You could obviously see like if we equip this, how it would like fold itself out.
Yeah.
In fact, even then, like that's the one that is like attached to the right arm. But like everything in this game, we also have a version that can be that is attached to the left arm, and that does tie into your usual right weapon, left weapon, like firing buttons. So sniper cannons, heat cannons, pulse cannons, laser. Even got big missile pods, which are pretty cool. Yeah, it's really sweet, all things considered. And even the and as far as all the other stuff like FCS boosters, generators, and all that, like the same categories are still there, but the functionality of like what is possible within those subcategories is expanded a lot. That this is the game where they hone in on the idea of scan mode as an auxiliary power system is something that works really well if you have a generator that has insane recharge rates. So you can basically use it as a means to gain back energy even when you're in a full boost. And there's an extra fun thing up this game's sleeve on top of that, because AC5 was a multiplayer game, as we all remember. Like, had a big, persistent multiplayer component, obviously inspired by FromSoft's previous work on Chrome Hounds and not wanting to let that game's efforts go to waste because of the servers being shut down not too long after its release. The campaign can still obviously be played single player, you know? Like, that was clearly the case in the previous game, and it's still the case here. But sometimes it's like, you know, maybe you're having a bit of difficulty getting through on your own, and you want, like, a friend, like someone to help you out, but you don't have anyone you know online that is playing this game because most people didn't know that this game existed, which is a damn shame. But let's see, I'm trying to remember what. Yeah, toggle customization. That is true though. Like AC5 servers may be gone, but like Verdict Day servers are still active. They're still running like that persistent like war game. Even if you want to get into it, I obviously can't engage with it since this is a soft jailbroken PS3. But like I've gone in there briefly to kind of like see how far I could get with it, and yeah, it's impressive. It's still running. But here we have the UNACs. UNACs, I forget the full acronym, like what it stands for. I always kind of shorten it to basically like unmanned AC. It is essentially an AI controlled AC that you can assign, like if you're playing offline, for instance, or if you're in multiplayer and you don't have enough people like in your mercenary group to have like a full squad at a time, you could just assemble a separate AC out of your own parts and then assign it with different AI models and programming, which is stupidly complex, as you'll see just from this screen alone.
Go on.
As you might imagine, I have not spent time on this save file, like getting like a decent set of AI parameters made for this thing. I just like did not find the time like this year or even like the year before when I had to basically rebuild this save file on my current PS3. But I at least spent all the money I did to unlock all the possible like logic chips that I could. So if I do want to go all in on setting up a proper AI parameters for it, I could. But I
Are
did
you
this
customizing its abilities in different categories, or are you actually like affecting its behavior as well?
It's very much behavior focused. Like there's like you essentially kind of like there are chips that are designed to like make it adhere to like certain behaviors, like what range it will fight at, like switching weapons, things like that. And you all adjust it based on like percentages of like, you know, say it goes into like what is considered medium combat range. You could like have it automatically switch to start using a weapon that is effective for that, or you could adjust the percentage like probability of that function so that it's like it'll make its decision from there whether to still keep using the same weapon it has, keep up the offense, or like take a break from that just to switch over to the other one, because we all know weapon switching in this is a very lengthy process that needs to be considered in advance. And also with the names and stuff I got here, in case it wasn't already clear, yes, I decided to model this off of Metal Wolf. They're both relatively of the same size. That game's like mechanical foundation is something of an inspiration for 5th gen Armored Core. I felt it was appropriate.
Definitely.
But let's actually get into some sorties, see what this has. But and as you'll see, in terms of mission count and variety, this is one area where Verdict Day gets a huge leg up over AC5, because it's no longer that imbalanced like split between super complex but very few in number story modes, missions, and the like 80 plus one node side missions, which are either destroy all MTs or destroy the enemy AC. That's it. Here, you still have the 10 story missions, but you'll see that the designation here, yeah, we've gone from like almost 100 to 60, but even with these that have like the little like sword and shield emblem are the main story missions, but then like these smaller ones that have like the hyphen and number to it, those are like the side missions that are, it's essentially telling you these are the order to do these in, so it makes for a more natural way of pacing out the main story while you kind of fill in the blanks in between of like doing these smaller skirmishes, some of which include like AC fights, others just include like dealing with regular enemies or other objectives. Some of them do kind of also, like if you pay attention to them, they can factor back into the core story that this game tells. So like there's barely any AI to Metal Wolf right here, but we're still going to bring it along anyway because this is the first mission and it is, you know, pretty simple. It's a good starter to just flex and experiment with, you know, with your builds and kind of see what works, what doesn't before you focus on specializing more on some of the later missions, because they can get pretty overwhelming if you're not building correctly for what they require. Also, music in this game still done by Koto Hoshino and their and FromSoft's in-house band Frequency. Still, still fantastic fucking music.
Jobs. They're always shady as hell. I guess mercs are disposable these days, huh?
Calm down, fat man. Do you want to get paid or not?
I'm sick of being a mule, Maggie. All I think about lately is quitting.
Then quit tomorrow. But today, you've got work to do.
No dice. It's gonna rain, and I want to quit on a fine day.
Accelerating. We enter at low altitude and then deploy. Get some elevation once you deploy behind serious lines. Ready to boot OS.
So that's the introduction to our main cast. It's no longer a resistance. We are just a small band, a mercenary band. I'm their main pilot, the only one that's really active in it. With the voices you heard being like our operator, Maggie, and our pilot, escort, Fat Man.
The stage is set. Now just wipe out everything that moves.
I like how massive the helicopter is that carries your AC.
Yeah, which also kind of puts into question just how, like, you know, how massive the earlier helicopters in the previous games had to be, considering previous ACs were 10 meters tall. Anyway, time to give these blades some work.
System scan mode 起動します。
Enemies around half strength.
All right, and that's enough. Switch back to these. This mission is, like, simple to complete, but sub-objectives return in this game. They're not as numerous as they were in, like, AC5, where you had, like, 15 on a single story mission. But they do encourage you a lot to try and, like, get all 5 at once if you can, and it ends up being very difficult to do on this one, because this is essentially a 3-way skirmish with you, Sirius, and Venide forces, and those 2 forces will just, like, blow each other up eventually.
Not that I ever do.
That's just how things have to be right now. You're better off not knowing what you don't need to know.
It's got to bug you too, Maggie. You were a merc once, right?
We have our next job to plan. Let's go.
Oh, was that the entire mission? Or is this?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I don't know. Not much to speak of, but
We will eliminate anyone with potential. That is
Yeah, but we also got our villains. Yeah, first mission, as you'd expect. It's the establishing mission for, like, who the players are in this story, where, like, you know, like, there's just this entire insane world war going on between 3 factions, and it's just covering, like, what's going on in, like, our own small part of it. So, like, I could continue selecting missions from, like, the sortie menu, but like, that's obviously having to search the entire world map to, like, find the correct icons for, like, missions to accept. But fortunately, this game knew that was a problem in AC5, so they just give you, like, a proper mission select on this screen, where it shows you not only, like, what your mission ranks are that you got for it, as well as subquests completed. As you can see, I've been very close to getting proper 100% clear on all this stuff again.
You've got a few not S-ranked.
Yeah, all of them by this point have to do with, like, mission 8 onward. But yeah, it's like subquest clears like 92. Honestly, at this point, I could even just have stopped doing this if I wanted to, because like, when you play this game, the rank and subquests you clear actually contributes to like that 6-star player rank down there, and like in each portion of the stars that fill in unlocks parts available for you to buy in the shop. So it's a player progression system that is 100% skill determined, and that's something that I actually kind of appreciate. It makes it so that, like, if you're trying to grind out, like, a mission or something, it's at least towards getting, like, a rank that you haven't achieved yet, rather than just being like, well, I just need to get X amount of XP to go up Y amounts of levels so I can buy this part I need. It does mean it's very, very difficult to ever get the 6-star rank at the end, though. But yeah, it's like Vortex said, pretty much by the time you get A rank, like, when you get A rank, that's, like, when all the parts in the shop are available anyway. The S rank's just for the extra flex, and the fact that, you know, on my previous PS3, I'd done this before. It was tough, but was super, super gratifying to pull it off. But obviously that was, like, years and years ago, and I've had so many other games to play since then. So let's switch over some parts. I'm gonna go back to some reverse joints because especially with 5th gen, more than all the others, I found myself greatly appreciating like the advantages that the reverse joint legs offer because of how high they let you jump. You know, it's the sort of thing where, you know, like, it's cool to have that in like the earlier games as well, so you don't start using your boosters right away. But it was still easy in those games to create a build where just the strength of your boosters were so powerful to get such insane air that like the jump function of reverse joint legs almost comes off as superfluous. Here, because of your limited jump height by nature and the fact that you're dependent on what the environment allows you to do, it's like you kind of consider it a lot more.
And you've got more things to jump on as well, potentially.
Yeah, this next mission especially is also like a good example of that because as you'll find it, it's entirely on like an inclined urban area. Like all the roads and stuff are uphill, so like if you get to like the top of the area and then decide to just do like hover strafe runs, you can like get a pretty good height advantage, assuming they don't shoot you down beforehand. Yeah, but at least we're switching back to like the regular arms. At least you can see that we still have like the same sort of thing where you know, depending on like the part, like the shoulder units you can install is either placed into like the left side or right side. But sometimes you get parts where like where the shoulder unit install parts can be on the on both sides. So that's pretty good to have because I appreciate how you know, huge like the missile pod weapon arms are, obviously, but it's definitely like a lot more practical in the long run if you're just using the like the shoulder units within like your within your regular arms anyway. Oh yeah, and there's still junk weapons. I forget if I actually mentioned that this was a thing in AC5, but when you start that game like on a fresh save, like it starts you with parts that are literally labeled as junk. Like they're designed to be specifically worse than any part that you could possibly like buy from the shop. And Verdict Day starts the same way, and it kind of contributes initially to me like even like because when I first played this game, I didn't immediately fall in love with it the way that I eventually did, because a lot of it was I did not have a save file for AC5 beforehand. And yeah, like the junk parts are like they're the ones by default, and that you also can't sell them. That's the other big factor. So you can't sell them like you could in the early games to try and get like a head start on money.
Right.
But yeah, we'll go with these. But yeah, it's what was it I was saying? Oh yeah, like I didn't quite fall in love with this game at the start just because of that, like when starting with junk parts and the fact that I was still also trying to like gain mastery over like the PS2 Armored Core games at the same time. It was like this is proving to be too different enough, and I'm not sure how I feel about starting off on like this big of a handicap. So I'm probably gonna so it's like that was the point where it's like I decided to shelve it and only go back to it once I knew I had gone through all the other AC games before it. And then once I did, with a proper AC5 save to transfer over, and then going through this with like kind of like on a better starting ground, it was like, okay, I'm seeing the genius that this game actually has.
This is a cool environment.
Yeah.
An espionage unit has stolen our weapons and captured the city.
Yeah, and even as you'll find as well with the with how the missions are set up, unlike in the previous game where the story missions were long enough that they gave you the option to have like resupply points, none of that is in this game. It is essentially harkening back to like they basically realized the mission length and design of the older games worked for a reason, so we are not going to make these go longer than they need to. You know, everything's designed in a way where it's like, you better make sure that you're prepared with all the resources you need at the start of the mission, and that it can carry you through.
Shall we keep going, Commander? I'll pay your price, but you will regret this one day.
Fine if you don't transfer save from AC5, since VD has a free DLC that gives you a weathered AC frame set. Oh, I forgot about that particular DLC. Yeah. Still, even then, it does feel like between that and as well as the upgrading, like the getting access to all like the upgraded parameters and stuff for UNAC customization. Because you mentioned as much that like the amount that you have to buy for that is also like a very, very like steep total buy-in price. Like it can feel like it's a grind.
Did you choose to have the Mech OS in Japanese and the
Yes,
voices in English?
Mm-hmm. There's actually some DLC for this game that even included like extra OS voices as well, like stuff that's based on the based on other characters in the game.
Oh, that's cool.
I forgot that this is kind of a big spot with these Yeah, unfortunately, it is very easy to take damage in this case, but that's also because I just kind of charged forward with the idea that I wanted to get to the high ground quickly, so I can just rain death from above.
There's so much going on at times. I have to look at the 60 FPS Twitch stream rather than the 30 FPS Discord stream.
Yeah, well, even then, like the game itself, it's still not 60 FPS. It is significantly like better running across the board than it was in AC5, but even then, you know, this is still a far cry from what it used to be on PS2, where they actually managed to put games out at 60 FPS. But even then, after like when you look back on that, that's clearly just because I think like they were just being way more modest in like what they were trying to achieve graphically in those games, that the PS2 just happened to be powerful enough to kind of handle it at native refresh rates.
Yeah.
Yep. And let's... I gotta get my energy back. You gotta love that boost kick.
I do like it.
Yep. It's always a good time. And of course, can't forget the recon units. They're always still there. Remember, if I missed anything... Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, there's a turret over there. And obviously the action is just gonna like end up slowing down a lot when you kind of have these situations of, you know, where's the last enemy? But there they are. Okay, there we go. Thank you, Michael Wilson. Yeah, there's also scrap parts that you can find in like a lot of the missions in this game that like also unlock more parts. It's the same system that was also in AC5 as well, but I obviously don't need to worry about picking all those up here since, you know, I already collected them. I have pretty much access to every part that I would need. The only thing that like I'm lacking in some cases is that I don't have 2 of every part or more, because when you because when you want to deploy like a UNAC, you it also requires that you assign it parts that are from your collection. But there's also, as you could imagine, besides my general performance of taking a lot of damage, there is the other downside that obviously comes from if you bring a UNAC into a fight. Like, yes, the extra firepower helps, but having one on hand actually puts you more at risk than a lot of other Armored Core games after a certain point, where you can come out of the mission losing money instead of winning it. Yeah, so not like the best performance on that, as you might imagine. I mean, we're just gonna like keep going through like kind of some more of like these missions, and I think we gave like enough time to like the UNAC that will just kind of show how it goes when like I'm handling this solo up against the mission that focuses on a mini boss.
Oh, this is another cool environment.
Yeah. Compared to how it was at AC5, where it was just in that one single general region that surrounded the city, is like, yeah, you see that, though, it's everywhere else in the world, everywhere is fucked, no matter where you go.
I want you to pit yourselves against our weapon.
Oh,
As you put it.
Yeah.
I like this one.
Yeah, there's some neat boss designs in this. And it also, like, when you play through like the campaign, it kind of serves as a tease for what the multiplayer has to offer, because obviously I can't show it, this being played offline, but I played like a little bit of like AC Verdict Day multiplayer in the past that like I can describe kind of what the kind of core engagement of it is. The idea is that you have to win X amount of matches, like trying to take over a territory that is not controlled by your faction. Like each of the 3 powers in this game, you can choose to essentially ally yourself with at the start of each season. And then, like, once you basically meet the conditions of winning X amount of missions in that area, you get to fight that region's super boss, of which there are 7. I believe it's 7, yeah, because I think they try and make it so that it's like, yeah, there's 7 major area territories in the game, and I do believe one of like the super bosses in this is like a special encounter with this and a couple of other, and a few other special like similar autonomous weapons like this. Ow! It did not boost out of the way fast enough.
Friendly UNAC not responding.
Concentrate, it's us for them.
And somehow that jump like barely cleared it, but I still got hit anyway.
It's like, it's a very funny roll, but also terrifying.
Yeah. It's also just because of the I think just because of like the color palette and the detail that it has, that it just makes me think of like the machines from the Matrix.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
this feels like something that those fucking squid monsters would come up with.
You actually won. Who is that?
You need to win 6 normal sorties to accumulate 6 points required to do the special sortie. Okay, that's the specifics of like kind of like how that the kind of flow works, and it's the sort of thing where that can be very difficult to do, especially at this point, considering that that Verdict Day has a very small player base, at least on PS3, since that's where I played it. I don't know how much better or worse it is on 360. But it was definitely the sort of thing where like I just kind of had to persevere until I got the sortie points I needed to take on the different special sorties. And even then, I still had to deal with the disadvantage of fighting those ones solo. But fortunately, there have been like people that were able to achieve such a goal, and that like I've been able to fight some of them single-handed, and it's pretty intense. I do kind of wish that they didn't have to be relegated to multiplayer only, because I can never access them again now on this system.
Maybe someone will make a fan server.
No, well, I mean, like the servers, whether they're there or not, like isn't really like the issue. I think it's just a matter of like if there's gonna be like enough people to really make it something that you can consistently do, especially if you're just only running into one or two people out there that are trying to get the sortie points instead of you. Yeah, it is what it is. Let's get back to another one. And why not? This was the mission where things, as far as the plot goes, it actually starts to get more into kind of like the stories surrounding the fact that we do have like these unmanned ACs. Like we had some that were helping us during like that test fight against the big autonomous weapon. But this is where like their inclusion in the story starts to become rather interesting, because in addition to the three powers, Venidae, Sirius, and Evergreen family, there's like a fourth entity that is not participating in the war as much as they are just providing supplies and technology to any of the three sides that are willing to like foot the bill for it. And one of those technologies is the unmanned AC concept. Like that's basically giving them the forces necessary to have their own powerful AC fighting force without necessarily needing to rely on the presence of mercenaries, because they would much rather not have to deal with not deal with soldiers that would prefer to stay independent instead of under their totalitarian control, which is not too dissimilar from how Ravens already were kind of seen in a lot of like the older AC games on PS1 and 2. And you know, even for like this UNAC of mine not having like a super complex customized AI program, it's not doing too bad right now. He's actually getting some kills of all things.
Do you normally not have access to the UNACs until this point of the game?
I forget specifically what the mission is that you have to be in order to get it. I think it's earlier than this one though. Like I recall it being fairly early on, because you do get like news updates. Like after completing each story mission, you get like essentially what feels like it's like a wartime newsletter telling you how things are currently going on the front. And that also includes like them basically saying, guess what, the Foundation has now unveiled UNACs, the new weapon of war. Take an AC but get rid of the pilot and that's what you get. Better value, right?
I'd have thought the pilot was the cheapest part.
Yeah, a simple, well-designed UNAC goes a long way, true. But also, as well, like, even with, like, making your own customized UNAC, you could still go with the option of using a rental UNAC, essentially. Like, there are basically presets that you can choose to bring into a fight with you. But obviously, with the restrictions in place for story missions, you can only bring one. You can't bring like a full squad of UNACs like you could if you were going into multiplayer.
If you rent one, do you still have to pay the ammo and repair costs?
Yes, you do.
That
it
sounds
wouldn't be
expensive.
Armored Core otherwise if you didn't have to worry about every aspect of the income and expense reports. But yeah, now the UNACs have gone berserk. Who could have seen this coming?
Who could have predicted it? Yeah.
Unsurprisingly, this same thing also ended up happening when you played Silent Line, because there was a similar organization in that was essentially loaning out AI technology to the major corporations. And surprise, surprise, it was also going berserk on them. Yeah, there are so many things about... and my UNAC is down. Whoops. But, yeah, there are just things about how, like, the story and themes of Verdict Day highlight that this still is a genuine Armored Core game, even with having a completely different, like, technical base for its mechanics. You know, like it still understands like the core themes that the series has kind of always been about, like since the early days, and even going as far as to like make parallel plot points to what was done in those earlier games, but with the idea of like, you know, either just reminding you or like subverting your idea of like what those were based on like how the context might differ. Yeah, and I think this is proven to be not a good outcome, but I think whether I win or lose doesn't matter because this is actually like the end of the mission. Come on. Maybe I could do this. Maybe I could boost kick my way to victory.
Do it.
They do take a fucking beating, that's for sure. Oh, damn it. Oh. You know what? That was still a good run, though. I also think that like my other failure in this regard is that even though I switched back to the using the regular arms, I forgot to put Bay weapons on the other slot. So, but let's actually just get to. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep switching just to make sure, because I have like of all the missions I want to show off, I want to make sure that I still have time to show off like the last few story missions because they are like very important. But let's add the let's get some Bay weapons on here. Again, I have a heat machine gun and Gatling gun, so I already got chemical and kinetic weapons covered on that. Although it might help to get just like a proper rifle. And then oh wait, no, because I think the right arm already has a kinetic weapon. We'll get a just a regular battle rifle. There, so like in the event that I need to switch weapons, like I could if I need to change the like dual kinetic or dual chemical, I can easily do that. Oh yeah, and also, like, when you buy weapons in this game, you also have the option of tuning them, which is a very welcome change after how it was handled in AC5, where it was something that you basically had no control over whether or not you got tuned weapons, and that was only if you were playing the multiplayer. Yeah. And
so you're equipping... You've got the shoulder bays and 4 weapons.
Yes. Essentially 5 in total.
Nice.
Yep. Again, that is again like even with just like how the Bay weapons are set up, it's like this is what if Metal Wolf Chaos, but like the weapon pods on Metal Wolf were more sensible. Because those things could hold like 4 at a time, and those were some big weapons. It's like a freaking conveyor system that's essentially going into like that essentially goes into like hammer space, essentially. Also different in this game is the simpler 3-point tuning system compared to AC5's weapon growth online tuning. Yeah, like that is definitely the big key. Like again, kind of going to how it was very hard to control like in what ways your weapon would be tuned in the previous game. In this, it's a very simple one where it's 3 categories and you have 3 points. You could evenly distribute it across all 3, or just go all in on one, or you know, like invest 2 points in one 1 point in the second, and then 0 and nothing. Just kind of what do you like? Personally, I tend to always default to just put all the tuning points into firepower, because the more damage, the better.
So what's the giant building?
Those are the towers. And that is actually like the catalyst for why the 3 forces in the world are fighting. Because that's where eons upon eons of lost technology are left behind.
We need to destroy any
like all kinds of tech, resources, everything that like these superpowers would need in order to sustain themselves as nations. And in classic AC faction, it is always escalating into just overwhelming war and aggression because they're like, I want those things. Fuck you. Oh yeah, there's that's Eric, who's a character that, if you were just, it's funny, if you were just focusing on the story missions, this would be your first time getting introduced to him, because there's a side mission beforehand where like you and him are hired to do like a kind of a quick sortie, like against the enemy. So now it's here where we're kind of having to make a big stand against a bunch of UNACs that have all gone like completely off the grid, you know, just completely autonomous, destroying everything in their path. You're very cavalier about like the nature of your situation right now. Switch over. There we go. Full kinetic weapons. Honestly, the way to go in this case. You know, like defense type. Playing to certain strengths is very important, especially with how all these UNACs are not made with like the same defenses in mind.
Oh no, Eric! I'd grown such a fondness for this character.
Yep. Oh yeah, and Vortex points out Eric is also one of the 3 training ACs that you can fight in like in the AC test program. You know, like when you build an AC and you go through a little test run that like all the games have essentially. Yeah, so fighting against them all on my own would seem pretty difficult, but
I knew someone was out there, but the Reaper Squad? Why? What did they want?
Red and black. That's a familiar color combination, although I think the ratio is a bit inverted from what 9-Ball had. This is another one of those elements of the game really leaning into. I would say it is like it's a level of fan service that I think is done with like a lot of thought and care compared to what most other franchises would probably default to.
Yeah.
Because like basically like how it goes when you're in an AC game is like if there's like a if there's a predominantly red and black AC and or they are represented by the number 9, that is a reason to be very, very afraid. In fact, once we get to the final mission, like it even goes beyond just the obvious parallels to something that resembles like 9-Ball Seraph. It kind of is. Oh, should I say it now or not? Because it actually kind of relates to that tower in the background. Funny enough, at least I think I recall it having to do with it. Ah, fuck it. I might as well say it. So, 5th generation Armored Core actually is in the same timeline as Armored Core 4 and 4 Answer.
Oh, wow.
It was a detail that was not that no one was really privy to that was the case back when AC5 came out, and it was only until this game that you started to see the signs, and then supplementary material came out like around that time that was like, yeah, it's true, all of it. In fact, I think it also had like the side effect of getting people to assume that all of the AC games up to this point were ultimately in the same timeline, which I think kind of misses the point of what it's all really supposed to be about. But like the general fact of it all is that yes, everything from Armored Core 4 to Verdict Day all happens within the same universe. And as someone that is very vocal about not liking 4th gen Armored Core whatsoever, like recontextualizing it as the backstory for these games makes me like more accepting of what those games are than if they were just like their own thing. Because like if there's one thing that I can say is kind of like a frustrating about 4 and 4 Answer to me, besides just how I don't like the way that it plays or mechanically speaking, is that the whole setting and technology level that it has makes sense as like a backstory for an actual Armored Core game, where it's essentially the event that leads up to a Great Destruction type of cataclysm that leads to the world kind of having to essentially like regress back several levels of technology because they went too far. Yeah, because Vortex again pointing out, because with the multiplayer maps, there's a lot of them. One of them takes place in the wreckage of a cradle, which was a gigantic, like, flying ship/city that was holding, like, major portions of the population above the atmosphere because the ground was so polluted and saturated with Kojima particles. And, like, these towers are also, like, things where, like, because of the technology they hold and whatnot, they are similarly remnants of the technology from that previous era. And anyone that's, like, played through 4 Answer will also remember, you know, just the fact that that game had different endings. One of the endings that people most often remember, even though I think it has problems in its own right as far as, like, an ending to an AC game, again, if we're going by if it was just its own thing, is the genocide ending, where you just decide on a whim to shoot down a bunch of the cradles and kill billions upon billions of human lives. By itself, it feels needlessly edgy, but if you think about where the world had to have ended up in order to get us to Armored Core 5, I could probably see how something like the genocide ending would make sense as this universe's great destruction event. It's a very, like something had to have changed with that world in order to get them to realize that continuing to live in the sky and continue to go higher into the atmosphere until, like, a wall of satellite weapons shot them down was no longer feasible. So the only way to do it was to, like, make everyone go back to the surface and deal with all the horrible pollution, which clearly would have led to someone creating a mega city with, like, a despotic ruler telling everyone this is how you need to live. Yeah, I think we'll go with this one. Yeah, because we're gonna get a return of, like, some of the autonomous weapons that we saw even from, like, Armored Core 5. Like the ones that, like, I think even back then we were like, these look very much like the machines from the Matrix, like just the floating squid things. And it's also here that we get, like, more development of the story, why the UNACs went berserk, what the Foundation's doing, and also a little bit more into Maggie's situation.
They haven't made that information public yet, but I understand that a timed virus was used. It's triggered to attack certain logic patterns, standard patterns used by all factions. It was executed perfectly. The Foundation has been planning this for ages.
Shocker. The organization led by Cam Clark is the villain. Yeah. All this just so that they could get access to the towers simultaneously while all the other 3 powers are trying to clean up their own mess.
Their ultimate goal is, they're not naive enough to think they can win, right?
I'm still not sure. The word is that Reaper Squad is working for the Foundation. Reaper Squad.
So, we have to take out those strange weapons, huh? I guess you can still trust a scoundrel more than a berserk automaton.
Oh yeah, that's the things from the Matrix.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah, the Cam Clark bit wasn't a joke. The Foundation man is voiced by Liquid Snake. Like, the times you've heard him speak, you can kind of tell, like, that intonation is clearly him.
You're only human. Everyone's done something they regret. Nothing wrong with that.
Yep, that's like Maggie's backstory is that she was a former mercenary. The reason she stopped being that and became an operator actually is because she sustained a very crippling injury. She's an amputee. Her arm is missing. She can't really pilot an AC just one-handed. But like pretty much anyone that pilots an AC in these games is like they kind of can't see themselves as doing anything but fighting. So like just the dialogue with like kind of like what she has, what she ponders about, both in story missions and side missions, all kind of leads up to this, where she's just realizing how generally unhappy she's been with her current role, even though, you know, even though like from anyone else's perspective, especially Fat Man, like who's kind of like the contrasting character in this, who's like, there's no need to throw away your life so needlessly if that's the case. Yeah, this is another one of the autonomous weapons. Also a multiplayer boss from the special sorties. Oh god, it actually just...
Wow.
Oh yeah, and this also happens when, like if you're in a multiplayer match or if you have a UNAC with you, and it's still active, you essentially like eject out of your AC, and you can kind of help, I guess. Little pew pew laser.
I love the massive boosters you've got on.
Yeah. Honestly, though, I think I finally remembered that, like, just especially at this point, why, because, like, for earlier parts of the game, I could definitely, make do with just regular bipeds or reverse joint, weapons, not weapons, legs. But definitely when you get to, like, some of these, like, really tough enemies like this autonomous weapon or the late missions, I definitely find myself often, switching back over to, like, quad legs and tank treads. Just because, especially with tank treads in particular. Yeah, also pilot mode's the only way to take screenshots / pictures during missions. That's true. But anyway, here's actually the view of kind of how our UNAC's doing more specifically. Honestly, though, I gotta say this is a bit of a lost cause, just waiting for this guy to, like, maybe kill it or not. Again, this is one where, like, I remembered as soon as I got to it, oh yeah, I tend to equip the tank treads, because those let you use the super heavy weapons that would otherwise require you to sit still in place. But the idea after this is that when you do beat it, Maggie makes her decision to go with the Foundation because they promise her the chance to get back to doing what she always wants to, which is like pilot an AC and reclaim her title. So they clearly have some tech, or like, you know, like whether it's like fully like cybernetic prosthetics or genetic engineering or whatever, but like she's clearly able to be made fit for combat again, gets her arm back and whatnot. But I am going to let's switch over to back to some heavy biped legs. Both the arms and core are kinetic, but I think I'll also switch back over to kinetic head just to get that extra bit of defense where I can, to balance it out. It is interesting when you look at how important the defense values are, but also how Oh yeah, that's right. Vortex also brought up like the other thing this game added that I completely forgot because I kind of stopped using them after a while. This game has handheld shields, which were not present in AC5, and like shield weapons were a thing in like AC2 and 3 that were like equipped to the offhand. They were like a thing that you toggled on and off, but these handheld shields are designed to be way more practical because they fold out and cover like a lot more of your frontal area than the classic Armored Core games did. Yeah, so actually, thinking about that, I could probably... Yeah, let's switch over to a shield.
Does the really pointy head let you headbutt people?
I wish. It's I mean, like, whatever. That's just how the shields in this game have their own AP and 3 defenses, block full damage in front. Yeah, like, well, like compared to like how shields were handled before, like these are so much more like in depth in their useful as defensive tools than they ever were in something like Armored Core 2 when they were first introduced, for instance. Especially with it being like an offhand item as well, because it's the sort of thing where, like, you know, why would you ever go to the trouble of using a shield when you could just equip an arm blade to that same arm and just have extra attack options? It's simple. I believe in the getter race. True. Unfortunately, this is not that kind of game. I wish it was. All right, let's. Yeah, we'll go with that. We'll give the shield some of its time, while we actually have a fight with Blue Magnolia. We'll bring with us, again, good old Metal Wolf, the only UNAC to never succumb to this logic virus by the Foundation that is causing all these unmanned ACs to go rampant. Because you cannot corrupt someone with burning American justice in their hearts.
Even though America is long gone.
Long gone, yes. Fun fact, the city from Armored Core 5, there are missions and multiplayer maps in this game that are set in the ruins of that city, and as it turns out, they're in North America. Specifically, kind of around the Florida area.
Let me tell you a story about a time long ago when the world faced destruction. God wanted to save mankind, and so he reached out to help.
So, Carol and Chief.
But there were some who did not accept God's offering.
The Resistance.
They intended to destroy the order that God sought to create for mankind. God was confused. Why did man not want to be saved?
Because we're reckless, stupid, arrogant dicks.
Some people just don't like being told what to do.
Or that.
Perhaps that is true. But God wanted to rescue mankind. So
Yes,
he
I right, because
decided to
Noel
root out
advertised my
disease
stream on the
and
FitGen
slay
channel. Oh, cool. Nice. I'm always glad to see people giving the recognition to FitGen because it's gone so underappreciated.
Dark Raven, a harbinger of death that left a trail of destruction.
Yep, that was us in the last game.
Is a true story.
It's an instance where
Ancestors saw
they're making like a callback to the fact that in the old games, like pilots of Armored Cores were called Ravens. And this takes the idea of that name and turns it into like a sort of like dark legend in the context of this generation.
What you want to become?
It's something that where I actually am cool with that sort of callback because it gives it like a very different feel. I mean, the fact that the full title is called The Dark Raven, like if it was just called Raven itself, I think that would not have hit as hard considering how like the actions of what we were doing in there ultimately caused like the last bastion of what could have been considered like modern civilization to just go up in flames. But yeah, like Maggie's descended from those from people that were that fought during that time. It even ties into, I believe, I forget if it was if side material explicitly or implied that this was the case, but of like the different factions that are currently in play, like one of those, I believe, the Evergreen family. I think the idea is that it was a group that was like formed by Fran, who's the Fran, who's like the leader of the Resistance for most of AC5. Became founder of the Evergreen family and is Maggie's ancestor, you know, and I'm pretty sure it also led. I also think the way it also ended up going was as far as like how the other factions were formed. I would not be, but to me, I would not be surprised if Rosary, you know, even though her and Fran started to kind of like cooperate a lot better over the course of AC5, I would not be surprised if they had like a lot of differences in opinion that led to them splitting after the events of that game.
Maggie, give it up. This ends now.
Never. I can still fight.
Uh-oh.
The battlefield is where my soul belongs.
That is another line of this game where, much like when I showed you the Japanese voice acting for Chief in AC5, that is another instance where like it's one of those memorable lines, especially in its original language. And props to the dub actor for Maggie. She actually sells it pretty well in a way that I think gets close to kind of how desperate she's sounding throughout this whole fight. Like she just wants to live and die the way that she only knows how, which is to fight. Yep, I love everyone. Aishiteru da kimi tachi yo.
I knew it from the beginning. I felt it in my bones.
Series executive was founded by Rosary and the Men of Honor. Right, that's I knew I heard something that was like similar to that, where she was also responsible for founding another one of the powers. I forgot that also included the Men of Honor as well.
Battlefield. That's why I wanted to save you, Maggie.
Oh, and also like another thing that again we can't really show it because it's multiplayer only, but one of the bosses,
That's why I wanted to save you, Maggie.
again, I'm forgetting some of the details. Null or Altisen, I'm sure you can like you pick up on what I talk about. But it's the I think it's LIV or whatever it is. It's the weird like very like bipedal robot looking thing that floats around that I think was related to the Zodiac. Oh, Liv is Rosary? Oh, I thought in my head it was supposed to imply that that was the remnants of the Angie, who is the head of the Zodiac, like the squad of like 12 combat hardened ACs that are in a situation of constantly. Oh, Lady in Vortex is Angie. Okay, yeah, I was right. Yeah. Yeah, that was the sort of thing. Yeah, I do wish still. Looking back at AC5 when we played that we could have had more time to at least show off some of the order missions from the end of that game just to get more context to what the Zodiac was about. It still feels like such a shame that like they were essentially relegated to like those short side missions instead of just having like a proper campaign the same way the main game did.
Metal Gear Rex.
Mm-hmm. A little bit. Like that or Ray, I guess, because it's got
Ray
a
is
bit
what
more
I
of
was
that.
thinking of, yeah.
It's got a
yeah.
lot of that angular nature. Unfortunately, Maggie is not the end of it, so we gotta fight off the autonomous weapons. Cam Clark wants everyone to die because he is completely fatalist and believes humanity deserves nothing but death. Not even in an angsty, I hate humanity and this is what they deserve. This is more like all of us, including me, are just wanting to go, and we all want destruction of our own kind, so I am just going to help them along the way. Kind of a generic, uninspired villain motivation, in all honesty, especially compared to what the various AI in AC games in the past tend to focus on, because they are very much of the intent of, no, we're trying to preserve you idiots because you keep blowing yourselves up. You don't understand. But yeah, there's just so much interesting things about like what's going on in the setting of Verdict Day that like ties it all, you know, the ways that it ties it back to AC5 obviously, but also how it links to 4 is again just so like impressive. Like I never thought, especially when I got to playing 5 and Verdict Day for real, when I got near the end of my journey of playing all of the games in order, that I never thought that I would come away from this series thinking that there actually was a positive takeaway that I had for 4 Answer. Because playing it, I definitely felt like I didn't have any by the end. But making it work as the backstory for how the world got fucked up in leading into AC5, I'm totally down with that. Especially with the mission after this, when you see it. Like, that's the thing that seals the whole deal. Then, and also, I mean, there was also, like, a side mission in this, and a multiplayer special sortie where you fight, where a mission takes place with, on the spirit of Motherwill. In the campaign, like, that arms fort is just completely fallen apart, decommissioned, like, it's just backdrop. But the special sortie has you fight against the rebuilt spirit of Motherwill, and it is actually significantly more terrifying to fight than it ever was in 4 Answer, because you're not piloting a Next. You are piloting a 5-meter tall, admittedly strong mecha in its own right, but it still pales in comparison to the technology that came before it. My headcanon was the 4 Answer Old King route, less people died. Wait, do you mean like the genocide route? Because I assume that like more people ultimately died as a result of that, as opposed to just letting the cradles land normally and let more people just deal with like the Kojima particle poisoning. I don't know whether I win this one or not. Again, that's another where I kind of don't care because this is just near the end anyway. Please just... There it is! Ow! Traded blows right at the end. Fuck. Well, good enough.
It counts.
Yeah. But enough of that. All the connections to 4th Generation are about to come to a head with this last mission. Mechanized Memories.
Good mission name.
Mission difficulty 9. Again, never forget what the number 9 stands for. And this is always the mission where I just know, right, playing for keeps, just bulk up on everything that I need. You know, tank treads. Oh yeah, I forgot that I still had like 10 of these because I kept replaying one mission where it always gives you this part, but I kept replaying it because I needed that S rank and it wasn't giving it to me. That tends to happen a lot, but the plus side is that if you want, like, any of those extra free bonuses you get from completing missions, you can always just sell them for more money. You know, you can never go wrong with that. Let's see. Okay. All right. We got some. Okay, there it is. Oh, just that is quite a paragraph. Cradles possess 28 engines. You pop only 5 in their gliders. They're also modular, meaning they can jettison the burning engine blocks. So only a few hundred, maybe 1,000 tops die. The gliders can keep flying under 23 of their 28 engines. After the failed assassination attempt on you, you're done, really. No one is going to rearm, reload, and repair your craft. Yeah. It's just, I think I always assumed that it was it was the genocide route for a reason, because Old King, is keeping count of how many people you end up, how many lives end up going down every time you destroy one of those cradles. Shutting down the power causes all the cradles to fall at the same time, killing all 28 engines globally. They can glide for a bit, but the higher altitude stuff is screwed. That makes more sense. Okay, I can get where that comes from, definitely. All right. Yeah. But you know what? Actually, funny enough, that just highlights more and more, because anytime I've seen people talk about how, oh man, the Armored Core, that series gets so dark, you genocide most of the human race at the end of 4 Answer, and it's like, bro, again, that ending feels like such a half-finished tonal shit type of thing that they threw in as a bonus. Like, it doesn't even have like a proper CG ending cutscene like all the other routes do. Like, it's such a insane thing, especially when all the other ways that the Armored Core games can get pretty bleak don't end up going that particular route. It's kind of a weird thing that I notice, and kind of highlights how you know, you could definitely find it how there's a difference between, you know, like when people say they like Armored Core, you can tell based on like if they played some of the games a lot versus all of the games a lot. Yeah, there's no way you could have genocided everything. Try finding bazooka ammo in a zombie apocalypse. Fair point. Yeah. Yeah, there's no way to ever truly eliminate an undead problem when you're in that that kind of situation. Anyway, I need to find again the why is it? Yeah, there's shield, target gun, jammer, sentry, laser, pile driver. Right, because it's the. Okay, that is weird. Why it's Oh, I remember. Oh, I was an idiot. I was looking at the Bay units. I forgot. Yeah, because the big cannon weapons cannot be stored in the Bay units. So stuff like the cannon, autocannon, rail cannon. Right now what I need, though, is the, yeah, it's the autocannon, because these are the big fuck-off machine guns. I love them. Yeah, you can store them if you use weapon arms. Oh, that's right, yeah. But, I think for the purpose of this, though, just dual autocannons with extra ammo is really all I'm going to need, because I remember this being the way that I would consistently clear this final mission and always get a free copy of every single overt weapon or ultimate weapon. Yeah, I mean, like, the mechanisms of the weapon arms, how they function, like, in the context of, like, the universe is really cool. But yeah, you lose out on the shoulder units, and obviously, and it still takes, you know, naturally like a long time to switch over. But again, I just like seeing how they deploy, and you know, on the easier missions than this, it's still fun to mess around with. Yeah, in fact, I believe is there, as I recall, there being a reserve magazine. Oh yeah, that's right. I had these specially tuned autocannons just for this occasion. It's definitely all I need.
You look like you mean business.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I do. Battle rifle arms with sniper cannons on quads look so cool. Not that it does much. Yeah, but it is. But again, like you said, it looks so cool. Sometimes that's all you need. Even if you're not playing to win, just doing it because you can, and the system allows you to do it. So here we go. Mechanized Memories. The name has significance.
Report your status, Jay. Oh, good.
By this point, Maggie's dead. All the other Reaper squad members are dead except Jay. And, he's gotten a significant upgrade as far as, like, what unit he's piloting. So this mission takes place within the Vista, the remnants of the Spirit of Motherwill. And the boss is going to be a dude that is approaching currently in a Vanguard Overboost unit. And to put simply, what the, yeah, this is a black-looking version of a familiar unit to anyone that has played the 4th Gen Armored Core games.
To destroy it? There is no place for me other than the battlefield. To live as I please and die a senseless death.
There's some Kojima particles.
That's who I am.
White Glint is back from the dead. And this time, unlike all the praise that people give to that unit from 4 Answer, this one's actually worthy of being considered terrifying and powerful. With a fucking bitching musical remix of Remember from 4 Answer, which was White Glint's theme, essentially. There's the first phase.
Wow, that was fast.
Yeah, I just had to wait for the perfect armor, for the primal armor to disappear. And now we get reminiscent shot of of that one bit from For Answer's opening video. To sell even more how this is the resurrected nightmare form of White Glint. Again, what most people remember White Glint as he was in For Answer. I feel less remember that White Glint existed in Armored Core 4 proper and had its own original pilot, Joshua O'Brien. This one's piloted by Jay. He is a clone of Joshua O'Brien. Him having the same Japanese voice actor in this game is designed to basically sell that point home. But obviously, with this being a dub, the people doing it would not have known that that was the significance.
Words, they are meaningless now. Show me what you can do.
Another mimetic line right there. Yeah, at this point, he's ditched the primal armor. He's quick boosting all over the place. He's bigger than us. It is literally a next. In fact, if you scan it, I'm gonna try and keep it on here for just a bit. Yeah, you can kind of see just all like the stats that it has, but like the codename is NWG-IX. Next is what the N stands for. WG is White Glint. The IX is the Roman numeral for 9. Yeah. Everything about this is, like, the thing that cemented to me that, yes, there was ultimately some good that came from 4th gen, even though that is, like, my least favorite generation of Armored Core to play, and, like, experience in a lot of ways, you know? Because, again, like, a lot of, like, the setting, characters, and story and whatnot didn't resonate with me. And, yes, there's a V version for Vanguard. Yeah, because this boss also has, also appears as a special sortie, and he enters the fight in a completely different way. Like, his first phase is him doing bombing runs on you with his Vanguard overboost.
Forgive the filthy world that destroyed my life and everything in it.
I forgot. I guess the Foundation Man's reason is kind of out of resentment for just how terrible humans are.
The towers power them. They will continue on without me. The battle for the towers has begun. It will continue until all is in ruin.
And it's this ending monologue that I think is also, I've noticed, give people the idea that all the AC games are in the same timeline, and that at some point, centuries after this, it will eventually lead to the events of Armored Core 1. Because, just because, again, like, that foreboding line is that this war is not going to stop, even though we won. But Fat Man is just like, yeah, well, we'll just keep on living until we prove one of us right, you know? Because we have the right, the duty to find that out. Again, all the little details that this game has, like, aside from, you know, obviously I like the gameplay, that this is clearly the sort of thing where this gameplay system deserved to have even more games after this so that they could further refine what they had and get it to a point where I could actually say, you know, as great as Verdict Day is, it's still a clear step behind the high points that the series had back when it was on PS2, you know, like Silent Line, AC3, Last Raven, like the majority of 3rd gen is still like the platonic ideal for like what can be done within the systems of a game that can be called Armored Core. But this gets as close as it can, and if they had just been given the opportunity to keep making games instead of, like, stopping just to do more Soul shit, we would have been on, like, Gen 7 or the start of Gen 8 by this point. But it never happened. This ended up being the last we ever got of this gameplay style because it just went so underappreciated. Bandai Namco did jack all in terms of, like, promoting this game whatsoever. Basically like a hard swerve from how they ended up like promoting AC5 when that was coming out.
It's my fault. I bought all the Souls games.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna name names except Miyazaki. Fuck him. He did direct both 4th gen AC games. That's more than enough reason to be resentful. Okay. But yeah. Lucky Shot, Jackpot. Okay, LTSN, do you remember exactly, like, I guess specifically what the number mission was for what you're trying to direct me to? The one that's for Jackpot or Lucky Shot, whichever it is, because I played, yeah, the secret game, Peekaboo. Blue Magnolia. Somewhere between 5 and 8. That's, I mean, I guess that narrows it down somewhat, but, let's see if it actually describes. I don't think it, But, just click and look for the names or something like that. Jackpot. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if like the side missions, like the number missions, like have like an actual name to them or not. Oh, you don't need to go into the briefing. Yeah, I don't think there's one that's like called like Lucky Shot or Jackpot.
There's a mercenary called Jack Pod who appears in mission 5-8.
6 is Blue Magnolia. Jack Pod. Right. Yeah. Oh, it's a typo. Oh, that explains it. But yeah. Oh yeah, this is what you're talking about as well with like this mission, correct? Yeah, we'll see. I think as far as the yeah, this is the mission that kind of like shows like what has been talked about as far as like more of the connection to 4th gen. Yeah, we're fighting in the wreckage of the cradles. Yeah, behold the remnants of like the previous home of humanity when like constant like use of Kojima particles saturated the landscape. But at least you get to see kind of like how like these side missions go, and it's you know you can't go wrong with like a good AC fight, all things considered.
Oh yeah.
Especially when
that
I
was
got
fast.
dual autocannons. Like if you really want to like if DPS racing is like something that you enjoy doing, then like this kind of build that I have right here is like the best thing you can go with. Obviously on environments where, there's a lot more dense, obstacles or whatever to try and get around where mobility is more of a thing, obviously you'll want to prioritize using like a biped or reverse joint legs in order to get around better. But for the heavier stuff where you really want to tank shit, like quad legs and tank treads and all that stuff, yeah. But yeah, autocannon tanks lose to my ready position build. Yeah, that is ultimately the Achilles heel. Like if you give someone that can get into like a ready position with a powerful cannon weapon and just snipe you from afar before you get close, yeah, that's ultimately it. That's it for you. This game's in general is like, I think it's always easy. Like people can end up getting into the habit of thinking, oh, all Armored Core games have something like supremely busted in their weapon balance. There's never a balanced Armored Core game. And I would say, even if that is true, you cannot deny that there are actually Armored Core games that are more unbalanced than normal if we go by that logic. Because I think in the context of the series as a whole, 5 and Verdict Day actually does a very good job of keeping a lot of its weapon and defense damage types in check. And yeah, there's 2 missions that take place in Mother Will's wreckage. Yeah, I'm not gonna... We're getting near the end of this that I've especially because I have work to do after this stream, that I'm not going to really show it. But I do want to show one final thing this game has, like the last thing that kind of highlights how feature complete Verdict Day is. and kind of helps push it into the top 5 of the series for me. And that is hardcore mode. Basically, what it is that it takes the missions, which you normally would be able to freely access whenever you want once you've unlocked them, do them in any order. Hardcore mode harkens back to the way that the Armored Core series used to be, where you had to complete the missions that were in front of you. Completing them meant you could not replay them. All the income and expenses that you accrued were set in stone, and you just had to deal with it and persevere to the end. And fortunately with this, you know, it would be easy to just leave that concept at that. But then they have, like, fucking 10 different types of modifiers to place on top of. Because, you know, they call it hardcore mode, so naturally it's the sort of thing where, like, you can only go so far losing X amount of missions before you just straight up, it's over. So you have something like the defaults right here, where it's, you know, like, you have 10 lives, essentially. Damage taken is kind of, like, increased, but, like, everything else is normal values. Other times, it's, like, you know, like, some crazy modifiers, like, money is everything. If you use a lot of ammunition, you're gonna go broke really fast. But conversely, like, you know, if you do well on missions with the poor man, you get a lot more player rank points than normal, which means you'll get quicker access to parts in the shop, because you essentially go through the player rank system from scratch over again. It's still really tough at the end of the day. Like, I'll be upfront, I have never been able to complete a hardcore run. And that's even with going with one of these types that I've seen is generally considered one of the better ones to go with, which I forget exactly what it is. I feel like it was in this bottom half. I think it was Gambler, because it's the damage dealt was the big one, where it's like, you know, you take a lot of damage, but you deal more, so it's that kind of glass cannon style. So we'll actually go with that just to kind of show, you know, to contrast how we did that first mission. The first mission of the story, we'll show off what it's like going through mission 1 with a junk AC. Like, it is a really cool concept that I wish, you know, not just that I wish the other AC games that came immediately before this had it, because there was definitely a point where the AC games kind of stopped caring as much about enforcing the harshness of the income and expense reports. Like, it became very difficult at a point in the series' life to ever go into that, or give you any reason to continue on even if you fail the mission. But here, it's like, it's cool that it's in here. I wish the other Armored Core games immediately before this had it, and I wish other games would, like, have this as an option as well. Especially, like, say, going to something completely different, character action games, especially modern ones these days, like DMC, Bayonetta, etc., where they just go all in on the idea of having a ever-present, like, mission select screen. So you no longer have that pressure of, once you complete the mission, that's it. You need to keep moving forward and kind of deal with, like, what resources you've used up, how much you've earned. Like, that's the thing that makes me like DMC 1 the most as time goes on, because that's the one that sticks to that concept. So look at how much damage I took then, just from that one hit. But it was balanced out by the fact that I was essentially one-shotting everyone with a junk AC I should have. Like, yeah, it's a very punishing glass cannon type of playthrough, but it's the kind of thing where that kind of difficulty is more my jam. It's the kind that gives me quite a thrill.
And considering what I saw in the previous missions you were playing, it must be real tough to avoid damage.
Yes. Like, it's the sort of thing where, obviously, if you have a full lay of the land, that's the best chance you have of avoiding damage. Like, the quick boosting can only take you so far. At best, quick boosting in an open environment is good for avoiding missiles, but just regular ballistics, yeah, like, you're essentially designed to just, like, eat the damage as it comes along. But yeah, that's just the sort of thing. Again, it's all the more reason why I wish this system had gotten more iteration, like in the same amount of time it took them to go from 5 to Verdict Day. Because I imagine if they had stuck with this more and kept tweaking the systems, they absolutely would have gotten to a point where AC combat in an open environment with no obstructions would have gotten to the same level of fun as it is in classic Armored Core. Because that's like the key difference that still makes first, second, and third gen like have a leg up on that in terms of systems. Well, I don't know. I guess maybe not second gen for me personally, even though it still plays the same. It's just a lot more sluggish than the generations that immediately came before and after it. I guess one more mission that we could do just to go off. Yeah, we'll wrap this up just to show a bit more of the side missions that we had kind of ignored for most of the stream, and then that'll be the end of the hardcore mode demonstration as well as the stream. Like this is a packed, value-rich game as far as like the Armored Core series is concerned. It's the sort of thing where like it's in a similar position as something like Master of Arena or Silent Line, where someone on like the dev team really did approach it with the idea of, let's make something under the idea that if this ever had to be the last game in the series, then we better go out with a bang. And honestly, this definitely feels like it to me. Like by the time I got to this, part of me is kind of like, I still would have preferred if Last Raven was the true end of the Armored Core series, and I didn't have to play through 4 and 4 Answer. But it is the sort of thing where, you know, what's done is done, and having it end on Verdict Day is better than nothing. It is a different kind of mecha game that is ultimately reverent of the legacy of the series it's in, as well as the legacy of FromSoft's earlier prowess as, like, I would say, at a point, the premier developer for mecha action games. Because they had Armored Core, they had Metal Wolf Chaos, Chrome Hounds, another Centuries episode, like, that period of time, like PS2, and like even for the brief spots where they had success in the PS3 era was like, that was their high point. And yeah, and you know, like it took time still for like other developers to kind of catch up in that regard, like ArtDank, BB Studio upping their game when it came to the various Gundam titles that they were producing for Bandai. Yeah, but this is like, this is the end of its own era for me in a lot of ways. It's such a great fucking game. VD balance is decent enough to not require to impose parts and weapon bans in PvP and tourneys. That's very good. Yes. Yeah, you definitely, like, you know, like, even if some weapons are preferred more than others, you never want to get to the point where like, something is so strong that all the others just have no chance of keeping up. There's at least a good, because, like, I've engaged with the multiplayer somewhat briefly on my own end, as well as seen recorded footage of people that played it back in its heyday. And it's like, you can definitely see where the meta obviously is focused, but it's not so, like, focused on a singular point that the meta comes off looking like it's boring. They had a really good system here that, as always, it was just, it never got the appreciation it deserved. But I hope this stream definitely imparted on people why it deserves to get that appreciation, why it deserves to be remembered more than it does.
Yeah, and these streams always make me want to go and play the games afterwards.
Yeah, and like my only hope, especially at this point, considering the age of PS3s and the fact that most people these days have probably sold them off or something like that, I can only hope that that emulating these games can continue to get better at a fast rate. I did see, interestingly enough, like a Japanese player like record footage and like cutscenes and stuff from AC5, and he was running it on the Xbox 360 emulator Xemu, or not Xemu, Xenia, and it was actually, I don't know what they did, but I noticed that like he was basically forcing the game, like hacking it to essentially run at actually 60 FPS. It was kind of surreal. Nice. Seeing a game like that, which I always associate with being so choppy in a lot of the dense urban missions of that game suddenly running at a much higher frame rate than it ever did in 2012. It's like, this is all the more reason why emulation for PS3 and 360 needs to keep advancing so we can better enjoy these games than we ever did on their native hardware. Because we're past the point where I think the idea of wanting completely hardware accurate emulation is necessary, especially when these systems are more and more designed like PCs instead of their discrete, bizarre hardware and architecture.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
it for Perfect Day. Thank you so much for being on to see this journey through 5th gen, Millennium.
Thank you as always for having me on.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to emulating it in 60 FPS runs well, but it breaks the kick's hitbox. Oh, yeah.
Well,
I
if
guess
the kick's not there, then
yeah, that's a bit tricky. But then again, I guess a locked 30 with no dips wouldn't be too bad, I suppose. Because there were some scenes, you remember those. Those were like hitting close to 10. They were rough. They were like some very impressive visuals, but goddamn, that was some Blighttown tears of like, what the hell are you doing? How did you think this was playable? But that's it for Armored Core on this stream. Not the end of Year of the Mecha, though. Next week, once we go into December, we will be looking at our final PS3 Mecha game, Mobile Suit Gundam Side Stories. Another end of an era, I guess you could say, considering we have covered a little bit of the history of the Gundam Side Story line of video games. It also ends up being one of those complicated games to talk about because I am so conflicted between the things I like and don't like about it. But, just like everything I put on this list, it's there for a reason because there is always something interesting to talk about with it.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Yep. Thanks to everyone that stopped by to watch it, especially Voltex and Altisen for the for helping fill in the gaps in some of my 5th gen AC knowledge regarding the lore that I had like forgotten about, but still held on to a few of the pieces. You know, it was good to get that info solidified again. Thank you. So see you a week and a half from now, where we will take a look at yet another Gundam game, because you can never have too many of those on this channel. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Game over.